A lot of people think programming involves mostly working with numbers, but you can also work with text. This can be anything from a few words to whole sentences or even paragraphs, and this is where strings come in. Hi, I'm Victor, and today on Heights Above Sea Level, we'll be looking at strings in C#. Before we get started, if you want to talk more about this kind of thing, be sure to follow me on Twitch at Height Above Sea Level, where I do some live coding sessions as well as try and answer some of your questions as best I can. This video builds off of what we learned in the variables video and a little bit on operators as well. I'm assuming you have some understanding of those concepts, but if not, I'll link the videos to the top right of your screen. Strings in many programming languages are used to store text. And in C#, strings are denoted or declared using double quotes. Let's look at an example. So string, whoops, not all caps, but string first name equals double quotes, and what you want to be written, the text that you want, goes inside the double quotes. So let's say Tony. And there you go. And just like before when we learned that you can use var, so you can say var last name is equals to double quotes stock, and that works, whoops, as well. But one thing that you may notice in other programming languages is that you declare a string like this. Let's say you declare a string using double quotes. So let's say country, we can call this Canada. I don't know if Tony Stark is Canadian, but let's just go with it for now. As you see, we're getting an error because you can't declare a string this way in C#. You can only declare it using double quotes. And why is that? Because single quotes in C# are used to represent character. And this is how you write a character in C#. So character, we can say letter is equals to A, like that. IntelliCode helped me out, so I just press tab. So this is how you declare a character in double quotes. You can't do this with, you can have, and also you can have multiple characters in character because it's a character, not characters, it's a character. So we'd have to do something like C to represent the country, but what's going on? You see the return type, this is string. We also have to change this over here to be char. Remember, char stands for character. In other languages, you can use single quotes, but in C# it has to be double quotes. But when you get to arrays, we'll see that you can go through this string and remove each and get access to each single character. That is a bit beyond the scope of what we're doing today, and I do plan to cover it later on, so please subscribe if you want to see that. For now, just know that a string is declared using double quotes and a character is declared using single quotes. And you can also use var for a character as well. You can say another letter is equals to D, and it can be lowercase or uppercase. So that's how you declare a string in C#. And I'm sure, like you've seen before, we can even write it on the console. First name, Control F5. It's a building, give it a second. I'm going to show Tony. There it is. You can switch this to last name, Control F5, stock. So there you have it. That's how you declare a string in C#. And one thing you need to know about strings is that in C#, strings are immutable. And what does that mean? This means that once you create them, you can't change them. You cannot change them. So let's look at an example of this. Let's say you create a string like city. You say, what city should I use? Let's say New York. Whoops. So if you declare a string called city, and then you decide that you don't want this variable city to be equals to New York, you want it to be equals to something like not California, like maybe Los Angeles. So what happens here is that this city variable is no longer in your head. You want it to be that it should be equals to Los Angeles. But what happens is this results in a new string. You're not altering this string that you created. This is resulting in a new string because strings are immutable. Once you create them, you can't change them. So this creates another string. And if you change it again, then that'll be another string as well. And I'm letting you know this because this could impact performance. Let's say you're doing a lot of string manipulations and you wanted to change maybe the city to be something else. So you should always keep in mind that strings are immutable. Once you create them, you can't change them. An alternative to this, if you have a lot of string manipulations, you can use something called StringBuilder. And I'm just touching on this because it also requires some time to learn about it. Not a lot of time, but just because I'm introducing strings, I won't talk about it too much. I'll link the article if you want to read about it, but you can use something called StringBuilder. And right now it's as this red's quickly line because it's not in the namespace that we are using. Remember, a namespace is just, simply put, a namespace is where you put a lot of related classes. And a class is where you have all your related codes such as this and methods and properties that we will hopefully cover later on. And what this StringBuilder does is that it creates one string and then it's configured in such a way that you can do many manipulations without having to impact your performance as much. That is a topic for another day. I encourage you to read about it. Now let's look at something else called a verbatim string. And what are these? This is a regular string, but when you want to declare a verbatim string, you put an @ symbol and then the double quotes. So why do you do this? Because of something known as escape characters. And what are escape characters? Let's look at an example. So let's say you wanted to include double quotes inside a string. So he said, come and eat dinner. Come and eat dinner. As you can see, it's not even working already. So it's giving us an error, but let's just go on. Come and eat dinner and the food is ready. If you try and write this on the console, it won't write because you can't put double quotes inside a string because you're confusing the compiler. The compiler knows that if you put single quote, double quotes like this, what comes inside is a string. But if you put another one, then it's confused because this normally comes at the end. So is this the end of the string and you're starting another one? What's all this? If you try and write that on the console, then Control and F5, see, you get an error. This is where escape characters come in. Let's say you wanted to write double quotes. You put an @ symbol, you'll use a verbatim string, put an @ symbol there, and put 2 quotes, as you can see. Not yet. Hold on, let me put another one over here. As you can see, these change color because these are escape characters. And what does that mean? We're telling the compiler if you see 2 double quotes, that means it's a double quotes inside a string. And right now, if you write this on the console, it should work. So he said, there's my double quotes, and there's the ending. And stock is just from up here. I can comment this. Whoops. When I run it, the application, Control and F5 is showing this stock is just coming from up here, which I'm going to comment out with Control K, Control C. So these are verbatim strings. They make it just a little bit easier to work with escape characters, but you can also do this, something similar with regular strings. Let's say you wanted to write this second sentence in a new line. You can use backspace N. And this is telling it it's a new line escape character. So if you write in the application with Control and F5, look, he said, come and eat dinner, the food is ready. This N, \N, we're telling the compiler, hey, write that make a new line first and then write this. You can also use \t to say make a tab and then write this. Control and F5. You see this space right here? This is a tab. It's denoted by this escape character. I can write a couple of them here, like \n for a new line. You can say \t for a tab. I even believe there's one called \r for courage return, but I'm not sure about that, so I'll just leave this too. And this is how we use them. You can also use them in Verbatim string. And I'll link an article with all these escape characters for you in the description below, so you can check that out and see for yourself what other interesting things you can come up with when working with strings. Real quick, if you're enjoying the content, please consider supporting me over on Patreon, and all patrons will get this custom Sakura theme that I came up with. I have all the instructions of setting up these colors so that your code editor, Visual Studio to be specific, looks just like mine, and you have all these colors. And if you like it, then please support me over on Patreon and you'll get it. All right, let's move on to interpolated strings. And what are these? Let's look at an example. Let's say you wanted to include a variable inside a string. So let's say number of eggs is equals to 12. And let's say food report is equals to, there are a certain number of eggs, let's say 10 eggs in the basket. So if we have this string and the number of eggs changes, let's say you're having an application that every time someone clicks a button or someone does something, the number of eggs changes, either reduces or increases or resets back to 12. Now, if you're doing it this way, that means you'll have to make a new string every time. If you're giving the client or anyone who's using this application a message, you'll have to create a new string and change this to like 9, and then create another one, change this to like 1. And you see, it's a lot of work, and it's also probably affect performance negatively when all you want to do, is just change this. So how can we include this variable inside here such that whenever it changes, you write a message, but only this part changes? Well, this is where interpolated strings come in. And to write them, you can put a $sign here, and then this variable, number of eggs, we want to include it in this string, so we say curly braces, number of eggs. That way we only need to change this. We don't need to create another string. We just need to create this or change this, and the same string will be output with the thing that we changed being different. So let's write this on the console. Not number of eggs, but food report. There are 12 eggs in the basket. Let me comment this out. And if I change the 12 to 23 and I control and F5 to run the application, what do you think will happen? Well, let's take a look. There are 23 eggs. You see, I only needed to create one string, and this is the only part that's changing. I didn't even say 45. And guess what? 45 eggs in baskets. And the thing is, you can add even more variables inside this string. So let's say number of people is equals to 3. So you can say there are number of eggs in the basket, and there are, with the variable number of people in the kitchen. There are 45 eggs in the basket and there are 3 people in the kitchen, and I can change this to be 100. You see, 100 people in the kitchen, 45 eggs in the kitchen. So the only thing that needs to be changed changes, and I only need to create one string, and I can put variables inside it. So that is a rather helpful part about strings that I thought I should let you know. But moving on, as we're winding up, I can look at a couple of string methods that should come in handy. But before I do that, operators. We learned about operators in a previous video, but they can also be applied to strings as well. Some, not all of them, but some can be applied to string as well. So remember this plus operator? You can do that to string as well. So let's say first name here and last name. Maybe I can cut this and bring it down here. And we're going to use this operator to join these two in a process known as concatenation. And concatenation is just a fancy way of saying join this word and this word. So we can say var full name is equals to, you see, it's already suggesting it for me, first name plus last name. So I press tab. And then if I write on the console full name, I can comment this out. Right on the console full name, it's going to be Tony Stock. Control and F5, Tony Stock. But guess what? We can add something else too. We can add a space like this. So Tony, attach a space, then the last name. Tony, Tony here, which is Tony, space, which is this space, last name. And you can even add something, something else here, like another plus, and say, or another space, and say, here's a cool, not CPP, cool guy. Tony Stark is a cool guy. Obviously, you don't need to do it this way. You can just use string interpolation like we did here. And say $, first name. Let me just do it real quick. So remember $, and then you put the variables in here. So first name, space, other variable, last name is a cool guy. And this looks much cleaner than the other way. I just thought I'd show you that in case you hear the word concatenation. All right, finishing off, let's look at some string methods. So just going to finish up real quick. So some methods in strings that are helpful in certain scenarios are like ToUpper, ToLower, and split. So what are these? Let's say you have another message. Come over for some tea. And as you can see, this is all, there's one uppercase and everything else is lowercase. If you wanted to have this in all caps, you can say another message dot ToUpper. And you remember the dot notation? Put a dot to access the methods inside string. So string is built into C#. Remember the string keyword is built into C#. And because this is a string, it has access to certain methods available in C#. Again, methods are for a future video, so please subscribe if you want to watch that and like this video too. It lets me know that you're interested in the topic. So we say ToUpper, and then the brackets like this to call the method. We're basically saying execute the method when you use the two parentheses like this. And this is going to return to you this string in all caps. We can write that on the console. You can say another message dot ToUpper, and then use the parentheses to invoke it. Comment this out with Control K, Control C, Control and F5. See, it's all caps. But you can also do something else. the opposite. Let's say you had some caps and you want everything to be lowercase. As you guessed it, there's another method that exists called ToLower. Use the open and closing parentheses to say we're invoking it. Control and F5, everything here should be in lowercase, so Control and F5. Come over for some T. And that's a method called ToLower. Finally, another method called split. Let's say you want every word here. You want come, well, you want the word come, you want over, you want for, you want some, and you want T. How would you get them? There's a very useful method called split. So you can say another message dot split. And this takes in as an argument what you want to use to split. Do you want to split them every time there's an E, or in our case, you want to split them every time you encounter a space. So you can say, remember the character and with a space. Characters can be D, character can be S, any letter, but it can also be a white space. And what does this return to you? Let's say outcome. It returns to you all these strings inside a collection known as an array. So if you hover over this, you see a string and these square brackets, and that means it's an array. Array, again, those are for future video. So an array, simply put, is just a collection. So it's saying we have a collection of string. When you split it using this white space, you get this word, get this word, you get this word, and this word. And that's all stored inside a collection. That is all I had for you guys. I hope I didn't put too much in your head and confuse you too much. Did you learn something new today? And have you worked with strings before, another programming language, and are coming to C# from another programming language? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the content, please consider supporting me over on Patreon, and I will give you the instructions to change your code editor to look just like mine with these custom Sakura theme colors. Also, I stream on Twitch. If you want to talk more about this kind of thing live on stream, and if that doesn't work, I'm going on Discord instead. Just click the link in the description below and become a member of the Water Tribe today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, from me to you, deuces.